Spoiler alert, if you're watching this for the birds, so I'm out here today to try and photograph some birds. It's been cold and rainy lately, but we finally have a nice sunny day, so I came out into the forest trying to photograph some birds, but the problem is I don't hear any birds or see any birds, so this may turn into nothing, or we might get something great. I'm going to trek on here and see what we can find. Just heard some birds chirping in this general direction that way, so I'm hoping we can capture something. Alright, so I hear some chirping across the creek here. So we're probably going to cross over there. I'll get my D500 out, try and set up somewhere. Before I cross the creek here, there's a spot of the creek where the light's hitting it just right. It's getting some cool colors out of it, so I'll try and get a photo of that first. Alright, we're down here in the creek, and I don't know about this bird thing. I don't know if I'm going to find something, but luckily I got this cool composition in the water here. It's got some really cool colors going on with the sunlight. So I'm going to use the D500, and the lens I was going to use to shoot birds, the 55 to 300, and see what kind of images we can get right here. Kind of a long, compressed down this down the creek that way, as you can see over here. So yeah, I'm going to see what I can get. Doesn't look like the bird's going to happen today, unfortunately, but that's the way it goes. So there's a pile of rocks down there that are backlit from the sun that have some moss on it, so it's giving a nice like green glow around them. And it looks really nice from way back here, compressed with this telephoto lens. So I'm going to try and go down that way further. Spoiler alert, if you're watching this for the birds, I didn't find any. So the light's running out on me here. I can hear the birds. I've been looking around at different nests and stuff, not seeing any movement or anything. So I'm going to call it a day. I think the pictures that I got of the creek here are going to be pretty good. So I'm going to get home and edit those. So that's how it goes with wildlife and nature photography. Often a disappointment. But we'll try again another day. So I want to do more videos like this, hopefully with more success, just going out and photographing wildlife, landscapes, stuff like that. So yeah, that's pretty much it. I'm going to wrap things up here and see you back in the studio to edit the photos I got. Alright, so it's a day later. I got the images loaded up into Lightroom. This is the first time I'm reviewing them and editing them, so let's dive on into it. Alright, so we're here in Lightroom, image number 1. So this is the area I was talking about, the creek that had the cool lighting. You could see kind of right here, the colors we could bring out. This was taken on the Z50, so decent shot here. Not a super great composition. Let's see what we got on the next one. A little better, A little better, not great. So I think we can maybe work with one of these. I'm gonna go with this one, the first one I took. So the first thing I'm gonna do here is crop out this foreground here. I thought it would work in the moment, I guess, and it didn't. So we're just gonna kind of take that out of the image. All right, so a little bit of stuff to work with here. The first thing I'm gonna do is bring the exposure up just a little bit. Highlights, kind of see where we can go with those. Up just a little bit, the shadows up. Actually, I'm gonna bring the highlights down and the whites up, blacks down. So before and after, subtle differences. So one tool I like using a lot while editing my photos is the HLS color tab. And that has all of the color channels, hue, saturation, and luminance adjustment for each separate color. So I'll go in here usually and kind of adjust each color and see kind of what happens here. So these oranges I really want to push into the photo because the clay here on the banks, you can see it brings out the orange in that and the sand. So I'm going to up that a little bit. The yellows are a big part of this photo. So I'm going to bring up the saturation on the yellows. And this allows you to adjust the saturation of certain colors, not just every color in the image. And that helps to fine tune the image just a little bit. So you can see if I push the luminance up, it brings up this brightness here in the water. The greens, I'll bring up a little bit. Blues, that's going to be in the sky. I'm going to bring those down a little bit. So yeah, I'll usually do my basic adjustments, go to the HSL color tab, do adjustments there. And then I might put some split toning in an image, not gonna do it in this one. And I also might mess with the tone curves. Again, not gonna do it with this image. So now I'm gonna do a little bit of dodge and burn here, like I did in my last video. So we're gonna paint in some burning. So this technique is called dodging and burning. If you haven't seen it, go check out my previous video. I do a whole tutorial on it, and this can really make your photos pop. So if I turn this off, you can see kind of darkens those areas, gives us a different feel to the image. So I'm gonna bring that down to -0.4 and add a little bit of dehazing in these areas. So that's off, and that's on. Now we'll add our next brush, new, to dodge, lighten. And we're going to paint that in these areas down here. So I'm mainly adding this where already light is present. Let's check out my last video. We kind of go into more detail on this. Different settings, brush settings, whatnot, if you don't know already. I'm gonna turn that off, turn it on, brighten it up just a hair. I'm gonna change this crop to a 16:9. That's another thing I'll often do if a photo kind of has too much going on the bottom or top. In this case, the trees kind of don't really add to this. The focus is on the creek. I'll add a 16:9 crop on it. So these aren't like super crazy great photos, but they're good, and I'm happy with what I got here. So here's image number 1 edited. Here's the before, and here is the after. So when editing my photos, I try to find a balance between making the photo pop and what is realistic and what I saw with my eyes. And in this case, this is exactly how I remember this scene, how I remember the contrast, and how dark certain parts were and how light certain parts were. So I don't think any of these edits are pushing this image to be fake or unrealistic. I think this is a pretty realistic depiction of how this scene was. So here I was dialing in my settings, trying to find a composition, and these are the rocks I was talking about. So here are some photos. Hoping we got a good one. These leaves right here were in the way, so I believe I recomposed to try and shift them more to the right. Yeah, there we go. All right, so we're gonna go with this one. I'm not too happy about this in the foreground here. It's a little distracting. It could be removed with some detailed Photoshop work, but I'm not gonna do that. This photo doesn't really require that. So this is, to my eye, not very level. Tilt that a little bit. I'll leave the crop on this. I think it looks good. I don't think I'll put a 16:9 on this, and we'll come to the basic adjustment. So this was taken with the D500. The previous image was taken with the Z50. So the highlights, I'm going to bring down, the shadows up. And this is to bring out the detail in both the highlights and the shadows by decreasing the highlights and upping the shadows. Then in the whites and the black, I'll increase the whites, decrease the black for contrast. So we'll go to the before and after real quick. Before, after. I'm going to throw a little bit of dehazing in there. Just a hair. A little vibrance maybe, but not much. I wonder what this looks black and white. Now I'm going to stick with color here. I am going to warm this up slightly. This image felt a little warmer on that day. And we're going to come down once again to the HSL color tab. And the way I kind of edit these is I'll pick the saturation slider and just slide it all the way down and all the way up to see which parts of the images are red, and then go from there. So I am going to increase that a little bit, and I'm going to shift it to the orange side of the spectrum. So in the color tab, this allows me to fine-tune the image's colors to get them all to complement each other. Sometimes you might have a green that's like a super lime green, while the rest of the photo is like orange and red. So you may want to shift that green from being a really green, aqua green, more to a yellow green to kind of even out the image. So the oranges, a lot of orange in this photo. I'm going to bring that saturation up, and the luminance I'm going to keep right there. I'm going to shift them a little bit towards yellow, not by much. So if we turn this off and back on, you can see in the rocks here, it adds a little bit of an orange tint to it. And in the background here, some of this color just pops more orange and red. So now the yellows, you can see, are a lot of this moss here. If I bring it all the way down and all the way up. So I'm going to bring it up, bring the luminance. I'm going to bring it down on these. And I want to shift that more towards green because I remember that being pretty green in the image. Not too much. I'll probably dial it back to 20 before and after. This is how you can really bring colors to life in your photo. It's way more customizable than just increasing the saturation or the vibrance of the photo. That's why I love using this, the color tab here. So we'll go to the greens, pull those back and up. So now before, after, before, after. So you can see how this tab can really transform an image to being okay, a little dull, to bringing life and vibrance into the photo. And so now I think I'm gonna do some good old dodge and burn. So I like to start off with the burning. I don't know why, that's just the way I do it. All right, so I got the burning done here. I'll turn it off and on. That's off and that's on. Again, this is a subtle effect, so I'll leave it at the normal burn -30. And we'll come to the dodge lighting effect. Start painting that in. So along with the exposure, I'm gonna increase the saturation just a little bit. And here's the before and after, before, after. So this is one of those photos where this dodge and burn effect could go either way. I could take it or leave it. I like it both ways. I'm gonna leave it on. So this is image number 1 and image number 2. 2 okay images. So I planned on getting pictures of wildlife, birds in particular, on this little photo adventure, but couldn't find any. So I got 2 decent landscape pictures, one wide angle of the creek and one telephoto down the creek. I think they both look pretty good. They're definitely worthy of sharing, so I'm gonna do that. But that's the way wildlife and nature photography goes sometimes. The weather won't cooperate, animals just won't be there, the lighting just won't be right. There's a lot of variables that go into it, but when they all line up and you get a perfect shot, it is definitely well worth the wait. So I'd love to hear from you guys in the comments below about your thoughts on these images and your experiences shooting nature and wildlife photography. And that's about all I have for today. I'll see you in the next video, and remember to get out there, capture the world, and share it. I'll see you in the next one.